We're going to Wally World. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Episode 2 on the Pirates Interceptor Chassis. Last time you saw this, it was in a less state of completion, but we've made a bunch of progress on it because I've had a great time working on it. Now, as of last time, it didn't have the final wheels and tires on there. The new body wasn't in place, and a lot of the things were just kind of up in the air still a little bit. But we chose the theme. This is going with the family Truckster theme from National Lampoon's Vacation.
This is the new Wagon Queen family Truckster. This is a damn fine automobile.
The green with the wood paneling. I thought that seemed like fun. So I painted this up with just a nice bright Tamiya green.
You didn't order the metallic P?
Metallic P?
I bought some wood grain vinyl, made myself some templates, cut them out, cut out some black vinyl trim to go with that. Try and pull off that woody look. And I think that it actually came out pretty good, especially for someone of my own abilities when it comes to finishing of a body. You may also notice this little vinyl here on the side, which says honky lips. Now, that's not any type of commentary from myself. That was what got tagged on the back side of the family Truckster in National Lampoon's Vacation. So, just in case you're too young to have seen that, it came out the year I was born, but I still have seen the movie a few times. And we threw on the J Concepts Tusk tires. I mounted these up to some Vanquish KMC tanks. These are a 1-inch wide wheel. Inside of these tires, I used some Crawler Innovations foam. I've got Little Novas in the front. These are the 4.75 inch tall with the soft outer, and these are the wide comp cut inners. And I bought those by accident. I went to my local hobby shop and just grabbed softs and mediums like I normally do, and I didn't pay attention. Not noticing that I picked up the wide fronts. And I have to say that I love them in these tires on these 1-inch wide KMC tank wheels. They're fantastic. The rear is just the standard. It's got a medium outer and then the standard closed cell inner. I think I'm gonna go ahead and pick up some of the wide versions for the rear as well because it just fills this tire out so well. It's got great sidewall support. Absolutely love this setup. Super happy that I made that mistake. I mounted those up to these axles with some 350 hubs. I did use brass inner clamp rings in the front to give myself a little bit of weight bias. Beyond that, let's talk a little bit about getting the chassis sorted out for the finish. Now, in the last video, I didn't have a bumper mounted. As a temporary, or I mean, it would be a very nice functional bumper. This is the stock bumper from the Phoenix kit. And I actually just narrowed it up to the width of the front of this Power Wagon. And then I designed and 3D printed a front brace to accept that post style mount. Worked out well. I designed it specifically to the chassis bolt pattern spacing and to fit in front of that dual servo mount. Super simple. And I will put up that cross brace to be printed yourself if you're looking forward to it. And speaking of cross braces, we got the rear mounted. This is that Hardline bed, I believe it was called. And it had some tabs off the side that didn't quite match up with this chassis. I did talk to Pirates RC and they're like, you can spread the chassis out and drop it down a little bit. And I saw what they meant, but it didn't look like it would really line up right. The angle wouldn't be as perfect. So I ended up cutting off the tabs with just a rotary tool. And then I 3D printed a cross brace, which you can kind of see back there. The cross brace mounts to the chassis with 4 screws, and then it uses the holes in the bed to mount the bed to that cross brace, if that makes sense to you. It makes the chassis super rigid. It gets the bed sitting in the optimal position. It matches the angle of the shock towers here at the back edge of it, and it gets it level or flush with where it appears that it needs to for the design. So I think that was about as good as it could be. We still have that extra length back here, but I think that we're going to get that kind of filled in with a little bit of extra metal work. We're going to talk about that after we run through the other things that we've already got done. Now, the body itself, if you see inside there, I've actually got some details. You can see a bench seat and there's a dash, which the dash has the same wood grain as I put on the exterior. And that whole thing is mounted to an interior roll cage. I designed that roll cage after I took and 3D scanned the Power Wagon body. I took that 3D scanned model and then drew like a perfectly fit tube cage to the inside of this body. And it just fits fantastic. It mounts to the back side of the body with 4 screws. You could just use 2 if you wanted, but I've got a bench seat mounted to it as well, the dash in there. Again, it's just kind of a perfect fit. 3D printed, I print it all at once. While that does use some extra support filament, to get it all held at once, it's worth it just because every joint then is perfect. It doesn't take, it's a long print, but again, it's just such a perfect fit to the inside of this that it gives it such an awesome look. Now, I did put the dash in there, like I said, with that wood grain, and the seat is actually a model that's from Knight Customs that I modified to work. So at this point, I have taken and I've hosted the interior cage file from here, and I put that on my website, and at this time I put it up there so that you could buy the model if you want. It's $1.99. If you want a super easy, great fitting Power Wagon cage, you can go buy that, 3D print it yourself. At this point, I haven't uploaded it for free. I may do that in the future. At this point, I didn't. That scanner was a very expensive tool. I would love to recoup even just a tiny part of it. So if you want it so you can 3D print yourself a cage, it's a pretty cheap investment, but up to you. I'll link to it in the description below. Now that seat that I modified from Knight Customs, it's actually his SR5 seat. I can't redistribute that file. That is not my file to redistribute. But my plan is to make some further interior details and get those hosted as well, including a dash and some like race seats that mount properly to this roll cage to make a super easy, detailed interior, if you like, that you can just 3D print and it'll all drop right in this. That seat in there, I actually added some extra detail to. A super easy trick is flocking. It's an old modeler technique. You take and I use like some real basic enamel paint. I got a whole kit off of Amazon, which I'll try and find a link to. I brushed the paint on, which was just a brown paint, and then you just this really fine fleecy fibers all over it, and it gives it a look of actual fabric. And let me tell you, it looks really good. It looks really, really good, especially for a scale detail hack like myself. But this interior, for what it is, how simple it is, and how easy it is to get in this body, man, it worked well. I've got more details to add to that, and I'll do that here before too long. But now, underneath of the body, we've got electronics installed. I took and I stole the steering servo and the 300 IS comp spec winch out of the 24-hour base camp build-off truck that I had built. These are both from Pirates RC. The steering servo is the 888, a direct power, super powerful steering servo. I use it in another one of my trucks and it's worked fantastic there. And the comp spec 300 winch is another fantastic one. Winch controller is built in, so it makes it super simple to wire up. For the shifting duties, I needed to make a mount for the servos on the VFD Twin. Now to do that, I needed to work around everything else that I had going, including the body and the interior, the bed, the chassis, all that. So what I decided to do was make this micro servo mount that bolts right onto the VFD Twin transmission. Now it actually goes in between the transmission and these posts that go up to the motor plate, and I shortened those posts by 3mm, and that drops in. Now this is 3D printed currently. I'm actually going to machine that out of carbon fiber just because that'll give me just a super rock solid mount. I don't really trust 3D printing in those type of applications, even though it'd probably be okay. These are the Reefs 179 Smart Micro servos. Pretty sweet little micro servos with a good amount of power. I am going to machine some flat link plates to go for the linkage as well. Rather than using a full-size link with rod ends, I've got them so that they're at a similar level, and a little machined flat carbon plate is going to work to tie those together, keeping things pretty clean and simple. Now for the motor and ESC, it's an all-in-one. This is the Spectrum. It's like the Fusion Pro version, basically. It fits right into this VFD Twin transmission. It is the motor and the ESC 2300 kV. Gets the job done, keeps things clean and simple. To get that dropped in there, I had to shave a little bit of the front passenger side upper link mount, just a tiny little bit to make sure that everything cleared. Again, pretty minor, and that doesn't really have anything to do with the chassis. That's just something that you have to do to drop that into the VFD Twin. Now the wiring isn't done. Everything is just kind of sitting over here on the passenger side for now, just kind of zip tied in place. I've got to get everything working and probably shorten wires and coil wires until they're the length that I think they need to be. Now another little scale detail is one you may have to look a little bit further in to see. And that is, if you look right in that fender well, you may see a little bit of an orange and some silver, and that's actually the bottom side of the LS3 engine model that I created. Now that is something that I did back during Scale Nationals for my Class 1 comp truck. I actually remembered that I created that today, and I was like, I should 3D print another one of those for this. I had to shorten the overall height just a little bit to fit underneath of the servo mount for in here, but that was it. And it's just something that, you know, if you're in a certain situation and you're looking just the right way, you can see the pulley in the front, the oil pan, and that engine block. It's a little something extra. Why not? But those are the things that we got done. I did want to make a couple of corrections and notes about the last video. Something I didn't mention is that I did choose the aluminum version of this chassis. It's offered in aluminum and stainless steel. I went with the aluminum version, which is a little bit lighter. I did say that the panhard mount was aluminum. That is actually stainless steel. That comes in stainless steel on all of the trucks. So just to note, a little bit more rigid than the aluminum version that I thought it was. Also, one of my big points in the last video was these 4mm holes. A lot of people were just like, absolute deal killer for them. I get it. It's not something that I like either, but at the same time, I wouldn't say it's a deal killer. It's just one of the details about this chassis that I don't agree with. I've built a lot of flat rail chassis, and I don't think there's been any of them that I've ever been like, this is perfect. So on this one, this was the thing that was my biggest gripe. Beyond that, it's been a super easy and pretty enjoyable build overall. But getting into the things that we have to get done still, one, of course, is the wiring that you saw, some more interior details. That stuff's pretty minor, but I want to make some custom front bumpers, rear bumpers, and maybe a roof rack. Now, I am going for the family Truckster theme. Up front, while this plastic bumper from the Phoenix would actually probably be one of the best performing options, and it's already on there, it would be free because it's included. I still want to do a metal one just because I've started to draw up a design that I want to try and do, and I'm going to get those parts fully designed, and then I'm going to send those off to send.com to be laser cut. If you never use that service, if you can draw a part in just about any format, CAD is the best, but they'll even take like Illustrator or PDF, some pretty simple drawings. You can get them to cut parts for you and at a really affordable rate. So I'm going to be using them. I'm going to make myself some custom front bumper stuff. And I was talking about this rear section and this void that we have currently. My thought is that I'm going to build a rear bumper back here, not cutting off the chassis because I think it would look a little too stubby. I want to leave it this full length, and I'm going to make a rear bumper that kind of goes around, and I want to make it look a little bit like a luggage rack. I know that I was talking about a roof rack before, and I think I'll still do that, but the family Truckster was obviously a station wagon, you know, room for junk in the trunk, and I think that we should continue that here. So I might do something that kind of goes around and gives it a little bit of height and feels like it encloses and finishes off this rear bed so that, you know, it kind of flows from front to back all the way, and this gap here at the back doesn't look as odd. After the last video, Pirates RC also told me that they do carry an X brace, and with this gap, you can then put a spare tire in there and it'll sit nice and low. So if that's something that is up your alley, that's a bonus. You don't have to worry about that gap. But if you're like me and you don't really like the look of it, then I'm going to do something about it, and maybe you would like to as well. So that's going to give you a bit of an update as far as where this truck is at currently. It's pretty close to being a functional, drivable truck at this point. Just a couple little things to change here and there. I haven't done my final body mounting design yet. Not sure which way I'm going to go. Probably don't want to just go with body posts through the hood. It's an option, but I may want to come up with something a little fancier. We'll see how that works out. We're getting close. So if you have things you think that I should include on this as well, throw them in the comments below. Love to read them. There's a lot of good comments in the last one, a lot of good suggestions. The movie choices and themes, Some of them were pretty creative. Some of them were pretty on the nose, and I think that we found a good one. I'm happy with how this went. The family truckster's been an idea that I've had for a little while anyway, and I think that I was glad to finally execute it.
You think you hate it now, but wait till you drive it.
So, thanks as always for watching these. Hit the like button if you enjoy them. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. As always, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.